And all right, guys, this is the official second episode of Bump Bump with Skelly Bones. With me today, I have the best pizza chef, Luigi Primo. He's going to take us through his top 10 list.
Di Primo! I make a best of pizza.
So, Luigi, what was your top 10 today? What's your theme?
Yeah, so in an older country, in the pizza kitchen, we typically have a man that we hire who has what's the word? It's like an accordion, a concertina, and they play that in the kitchen for the chefs. But in America, it's a little bit different. It's mostly a lot of a metal and a 90s of hip hop and things that either are or sound like a Rocky Erickson. And so I've tried to reflect of that on this playlist. Yeah. It's not my place to judge the musical tastes of the chefs at my restaurant, the line of cooks. It is my job to judge their tardiness and their attention to a detail and whether or not they allow nails or screws to end up on a pizza. But I've just tried to be transparent to the pizza industry and the music that is therein.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Luigi. Without further ado, let's start off from number 10, I guess. Repulsion, Stench of Burning Flesh.
Yes, and this is a good classic grindcore song from a 1989. But I need to be very clear that the song is about a warfare and it is not about what is on my pizza.
It's like we don't want the flesh on the pizza.
Absolutely not.
Do you happen to hear the song quite a bit in your pizza journey?
Sometimes. It's usually on like a mixtape as far as the things that are in restaurants. Nowadays, people tend towards the gent, as the kids call it. But typically on the death metal playlist, you'll at least have one or two classic grindcore tracks, and that tends to be what I prefer.
That's good. More of a classist yourself.
Exactly.
All right. So we'll get down to number 9, DEA, Down in H-Town.
Yes. Now this represents a very important part of a pizza chef culture, which is a commitment to a gangster or rap. And this song represents a big part of the Houston hip-hop scene. And there's a number of different remixes that are available from a mixtape. If you can find the original, it's very good. And I think we can all relate to the lyrics, which is about not being scared of having your car stolen.
Very important to not be afraid of your vehicle being taken. All right, next up we have English Dogs, Nosferatu.
So English Dogs is a real treasure of the 80s punkish metal, I guess you could call it. Right before bands like maybe like a Doom and the stuff that became associated with the Earache records, you had a movement of a very punky stuff that was getting a heavy and a tight. And I think this was really the only proper album this version of the English Dogs the lineup had. And it also features a very important line, which is Nosferatu, the deadliest foe.
He was indeed. You always got to be watching out for those vampires.
Many would argue that a Nosferatu is the deadliest foe.
I would agree. Next up, we have a song from Discharge, Police Control.
Right. So if you work in a pizza kitchen, there's going to be a guy who, like, he hasn't really kept up with what's happened in a punk over the last 5 years, and he still has his battle jacket from a high school, and he's always going to default to a discharge, more or less. And maybe he has D-beat tattooed on his knuckles or something similarly insipid and bad. But when it comes to a pithy, a punk rock with a beat, you can do that anymore better than a Discharge, a classic band. And this song, I think, has maybe 8 words in the lyrics.
Oh man, that's a bit much. I don't know if you can remember all those.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. I get lost after the word of police. Then another word comes, and I can never remember what it is.
So next up is at our halfway track, we have Ulver, something.
Yeah, so the first 3 albums of Ulver, how much do you know about their earlier work?
I don't know much, actually. I'm going to be honest.
So their first album, I think, was put out in a 95.
Okay.
So it came after the crest of the Norwegian black metal explosion that we all know about from the early 90s. And they kind of took that sound and they added kind of a sensitivity to it, to where it was like the pure strain that it came from that scene, but they slowed a lot of it down and they added a lot of lush textures to it that some people more associate with the shoegaze. And their first album was a good mixture of that. The second one took it even further by being a totally ambient. And then the third album is very much back to a blast beat oriented, but it keeps the melodic tendencies of the first album. So, and in that way, I think it's the most excited. The tracks all kind of run together because they're very fast. But yeah, I think it's a great album. It's probably one of the top 5 black metal albums of all time. And all the songs are about wolves.
Ah, yes, the best. How do you feel about wolves on your pizza?
Well, wolves on a pizza are not really a problem, but sometimes in the winter, I have to make sure the outer gate of the restaurant is sealed, or wolves will come inside the restaurant and steal my toppings from the walk-in cooler.
Oh,
They've
really?
learned how to unlatch it with their paws.
Oh, the smart wolves.
Smarter wolves indeed. But I have some non-lethal traps that we use, that we abate with the rotten pepperonis that we're throwing out, so that when they come in, a latch falls, and then a big cage falls on the wolf. And then I come and I say, wolf, you try to steal it from a Luigi, and you get to put it in the cage. I hope you will learn. You don't even get to eat this food. And I snatch the food out because it's been kept in another part of the cage. And then I let them go, and usually they run away with their tails between their legs. They haven't learned their lesson.
Yes, yes. You got to teach them a lesson. I understand.
You have
Harsh
to
love.
teach wolves a lesson when they try to steal your pizza.
All right. So since we're about halfway through this already, how'd you get into, besides only pizza making, but also wrestling?
Yeah, so I was trained in the old country with some wrestling skills. But then once I came here to Austin, I continued my training with somebody named Jay Sirius, as he is known, a veteran of the Texas scene and probably one of the top 3 wrestlers in the whole state. Truly awesome, and he's shared his skills with me, so I've been able to take it even further. And so by in a daytime making a pizza to strengthen my arms and to get a good reflexes, because that's what a pizza making is about. It's all about reflexes. And then afterward, go to the wrestling gym and train. So that's helped me take my skills. Because before, when I would be in the ring, people would see me and they'd say, he makes a good pizza. Because I'd be spinning a pizza and I'd have an apron. So they'd make that assumption. And it would be a correct assumption. But I've had to prove using a wrestling moves that I can also do a wrestling. So that's really been my goal, is to combine both the pizza making at an oven and a pizza wrestling in the ring.
Interesting. Pizza wrestling. I like that. That's a good genre. And how long have you been training in your wrestling foray?
I've been training here in Austin for about let me say 5 years.
5 years? Are you originally from, you said you're originally from the old country.
From the old country, that's right.
And so you've been in Austin for 5 years?
I've been in Austin for, I think, 10 years now.
Okay.
And I started being involved in wrestling in Austin in 2013, and didn't start training seriously till a couple of years later.
Okay. Now, do you hold any belts, or is there anything you would say you're extremely proud of?
Yeah, so currently I hold the Inspire, a heavyweight championship. The Inspire Pro is a federation here in Austin, and I think I've held it for about 8 or 9 months. I've only defended it twice.
Well,
but I've always tried. Every week I say, hey, you need me to defend this title? And they say, no, we're not doing shows. And I'm like, okay, that's another one for Luigi. So I think I might be their longest reigning heavyweight champion.
Ooh.
Is good because, I only weigh 170 pounds, so I don't get to qualify for the heavyweight bracket very much. Hey. Also the former RCAW international champion and former PWR, a BFF champion.
Ah,
with my
fantastic.
son, a pasta man, who is a human being made out of a pasta. Is my son.
Now, your son's made out of pasta. Did you did you create him?
Right. So I know it's a confusing because I always talk about a pizza and my son isn't made of a pasta. So what happened was years ago in the older country, I thought, hey, let's try something new. Let's make a good spaghetti instead of just a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a spaghetti and it didn't turn out very good. So, I had it in a bowl and I dumped it in a gutter. Years later, a sentient golem of a spaghetti had followed me to Austin, and he was going around asking people if they'd have seen me and saying I was his father. I think I knew what had happened, but I tried to suppress it, and so I always said, no, you're not my son. You're an abomination. Get out of my sight. And I was very cruel to him. And so you can imagine what happened next. We had a wrestling match to determine whether I was or not his father.
As you do.
And at the end of it, I again called him an abomination, said he'd never be a part of my family and that I was ashamed. And then he hit me pretty hard, and it took me down pretty bad, and was about to finish me with a chair. But he showed me mercy in that moment. And that's when I realized that forgiveness is real. Because I think before that moment, I'd just had a trauma and a sadness, and I didn't know that people could actually show mercy and a forgiveness. So that's when I knew that I had to give this person my heart and make amends for my past wrongs. And so that's when we began our relationship, which ultimately turned into a pretty successful tag team because he's about 20 pounds heavier than me.
Well, that's nice. It's good. Glad to see that you and the sentient spaghetti golem could come to, a nice understanding.
Right. It's good to have a family. You got to take care of your family and your close friends because that's what life's all about.
Nice. Well, although we're dealing with the whole COVID situation right now, do you have any plans for the near future, I guess?
Yeah, so the plan I have now is to once my home federation, a PWR, a Party World of Wrestling, we're eventually in the next couple of months going to do sort of a empty arena tapings, a minimal crew, fully sanitized, quarantine periods between each one, just to be as safe as possible. And I'm probably going to be involved in that. And other than that, just working on the merch angle and the videos. And as far as the wrestling goes, I'm gonna have to play it by ear and see how the situation develops. Because right now, I find that I can focus a lot on working on my techniques and taking a pizza out of the oven or running back and forth in my yard to work on my conditioning skills. And I can just focus on those things 100%. So that when it becomes a time to be safe and to be wrestling all the time, I'll be a very conditioned and I have new skills that I can do to help me continue to improve the supremacy of a pizza wrestling.
Absolutely. You want to come out stronger than you went in.
That's all right.
All right. So we'll get back into the top 10 here. The next track you had, I actually really do like this track. Dead Moon, Walking on My Grave.
Dead Moon, a band with 1 million songs that has been around for 40 years until the lead singer tragically passed 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, if you've worked in a kitchen of any kind, I'm guessing you've probably heard at least 30 to 40 of Dead Moon songs.
At least.
And it's pretty good. It's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Much respect to the married couple who has started it, who have been screaming for 30 or 40 years and became real icons of the sort of underground scene and champions of the DIY ethic. Always would hassle people if they tried to put a reverb or effects on their voices. And I respected that commitment to a craft. Because it's like when I make a good pizza or when I make a dough, you have to make sure that the water and the yeast is a good quality. You don't want to compromise and put stuff from off of the shelf. You want to get the good stuff that you got to order a special. You don't want to phone it in, because when it comes to making dough, it's not just about a commitment to a flavor. It's about a promise to yourself. and to your customers. A commitment of a flavor.
You want to taste the integrity of that dough.
Exactly. One thing that I want people to taste in my pizzas is the integrity. And I think a good amount of my Yelp reviews say that. They say, the pizza, not a big a fan of the taste, but it had a lot of integrity.
Of course.
But if they do malign the taste, they do answer to me physically. But that's definitely a trend I've noticed on a Yelp.com.
Next up on here, we have Terrorizer Corporation Poolin'.
Now Terrorizer. This is a good band from a 1989. As far as I understand it, so they started off as, kind of a very trashy sort of grind band with a Peter Sandoval before he's in a Morbid Angel. He's playing the double kick drums, and then they get in with these metal guys, and so they record the album at a Morris Sound studio in Florida. So it's basically as a legitimate grindcore as you can get, but recorded in a death metal studio. So it sounds insane. It sounds brutal. Like, it will give you a headache if you're not ready for it.
That's exactly what you're looking for with a nice, grindcore album.
It's good to get a headache from a music every now and then after a long day. And this song is particularly has some cool changes to it, keeping the mind busy during the long shifts where the orders are cranking out.
For sure. You wanted something that you can, lose yourself to a bit.
Exactly. You got to keep abreast of the changes, or else the kick drum will punish you even more if you don't follow the changes.
All right. Next up, we have Rocky Erickson, Night of the Vampire.
That's right. Rocky Erickson is a hero of a psych rock. And this song, I think, is one that a lot of people associate with him in general. And it's unclear what it's about, except for that it involves a vampire and their eponymous night.
Yes. They're not very seen in the daytime very often.
That's right. The Day of the Vampire, a B-side, is extremely forbidden.
All right, we're getting into the home stretch here. The number 2 track, we have DJ Screw. Pretty much anything by him.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that DJ Screw is appropriate to play both in a kitchen and literally any other situation.
Especially dealing, in the Houston and Texas area. I'm sure that he's very well known.
That's right.
The final track we have for you is Thergothon Elemental.
Yeah, so this is a very old classic. I think it's classified as a doom metal, and it's a very slow. And the guitar and the strings of the guitars are detuned so that they're very wobbly, like a mozzarella. So you can hear them having to be very careful because everything they do has the potential to go out of a tune. But it sounds very cool, especially at the end where it takes a very melodic turn. And it's like they're struggling to keep the instruments in a tune as if they're trying to harness the force of this elemental that they're summoning with the power of their music.
Almost as if they're fighting with their instruments.
That's right. Everything is a battle in a life and an art.
Well, that is definitely an interesting top 10. Like I said, I wish I had more of a punk and metal knowledge to go along with it, but I'm very glad that you were able to join us and throw some pizza and music knowledge on top of us. And I guess before you
and
go,
anytime you want to learn more about a pizza kitchen, a culture, you can come in and we have an opening for a driver or a line cook, and you can put some time in and learn all about a Honda Civics and making $9 an hour. It's a true adventure.
Yes, all the standards of working at a pizza kitchen, of course. Before I let you go, do you want to give us some of your social media or where people can follow you at and learn more about your wrestling and pizza skills?
That's right. You can contact me at Best Pizza Chef at a Twitter, and I'm on a Facebook as a Luigi Primo. There's some other Luigi Primos on there, but you should be able to tell which one is me. I'm going to wager that. And you can contact me on either of those for booking questions or just to talk about a good pizza.
One more thing before we get out of here. Are there any matches that are possibly on YouTube or anywhere that people could see that you would recommend them watching to get an idea of what you do?
Yeah, if you can, there's a match at the last PWR show from December where I wrestled somebody called a Dock Master. That might be my best match. Also, the title match with the J Serious. I believe you can find that on Inspire or Pro has it either streaming or as part of a package you can watch. Also on a Fight TV, I think there might be a couple of matches I did in a dark matches for Impact, but it might not. They might have taken it down at this point.
Okay, I believe I saw you in a pizza death match.
Oh, what am I thinking? Yes, the pizza death match with the Greg Iron is up almost in its entirety on YouTube, and that is a good testament to my idea of a pizza wrestling because we wrestle and we fight, but also the pizza toppings are a big part of it. Let me just say it like that.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about or discuss before we get out of here tonight?
I would just to say, keep reaching for your dreams because the dreams are like a good pizza. You have a goal, that's like the toppings. You have a dough, which is like the beginning, and you have a cheese, which is the action. And that's how you achieve what you believe with the dreams of a dough and the pizza of a memory.
All right, I want to thank Luigi Primo for joining us for the second episode of Bump Bump, and thank you guys for sticking around and watching. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and all that good stuff. All the links will be down below, and stick around for the next one coming up pretty soon.